Let me tell you what I believe.
I believe there's a hero in all of us.
There's something inside that they can't get to, that they can't touch.
Luminous being, so not this crude matter.
Death is just another path, one that we all must take.
Somewhere out there, you have another father, too, who gave you another name. And he sent you here for a reason, Clark.
You don't owe these people anymore. You've given them everything.
Not everything. Not yet.
What we do in life echoes in eternity.
Hey everybody, this is Directed by God. This is the podcast where we look at films through the lens of the Bible and Jesus, and we look for biblical messages, truth, things like that, little things like that.
We have an ordained minister with us today.
So this is like a more legit version
This
of
is,
this
yes.
podcast.
Yes, we hit the Bible pretty hard for this one.
My name's Seth.
I'm
This is
Reagan.
Reagan. We're the usual clowns, but why don't you introduce yourself, Mr. Pastor?
My name is Weston, and yes, I guess I am an ordained minister. I'm the pastor of adult ministries at Bethel Baptist Church, which is fancy just for I'm basically an associate pastor. That's what I do. So,
I heard an argument the other day that Matthew 28 creates ordained ministers. Is this something like my disciples go out and like he gives the great commission to his disciples, and there was an ordination process in there. I don't know if I bought that. But
yeah, most people tie it into Acts where they, set apart, set aside Paul and Barnabas. That's what most people see as the ordination. So most places say, they say it's what denomination are you ordained through, but most of the time it's actually the local church that ordains you. Kind of based on that. So that's the first I've heard the Matthew 28 thing.
Okay.
Well, the source of your ordination may be dubious, but in my life, you have cinematically taught me the meaning of subtext, and so I'm excited to dig into a film with you because you just look at film in a very unique way, and you really shaped how I do it. So this is like your favorite film we're going to talk about today.
I mean, pretty much, and I will say just as an introduction to me as well, like learning subtext. I feel like I learned subtext in while I was in college, both reading film, for lack of a better term, and reading the Bible. And so it was kind of this dual process for me of this is what's it's like. Oh, these filmmakers actually, the color of the couch is intentional, and they wrote this plot intentionally. And then, to look at scripture and go, oh, this is basically God writing a story with actual human lives and providence, but he puts subtext into the actual history of lives. And so there's a sense that, the Bible, understanding how to read the Bible helped me read film. Reading film helped me to be able to read the Bible better. So I love the marrying of these things, why I love your guys' podcast.
Dang.
Awesome.
Thanks for the plug.
Thank you.
I appreciate
all
it.
one episode that I listened to.
Well, you're stuck with us now, so. So what is the film that we are reviewing today?
The Avengers.
The Avengers.
The script and subtext and themes, as a youth pastor, and then even just preaching in big church, like I've used this movie.
You've used it a lot.
I have, like,
Cool.
And when the first couple times I preached in big church, I don't remember if it was the first one or one of the early ones. As I transitioned to this adult ministry pastor, like I showed a clip from Avengers.
Oh, did you?
I did, and
But
used
did Joss
to preach
Whedon
out of.
authorize that usage?
Probably not. We do have some kind of VCL license to show some elements of something, but
I don't think that's within Joss's power.
I don't think it is either.
Maybe artistically, but not legally. What scene was it? What clip was it that you showed?
the Loki speech.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get to
spend some time on that.
Yes. Yeah. So that's the clip. And I'm sure I'll do some preaching here at some point. So
we're ready for it.
If I start monologuing,
We're ready
feel free
for it.
to-
We're ready.
We'll attack.
One thing I'd like to say before we get into our personal experiences with the movie, one of the reasons we're covering this, other than Weston loves it, it's a great opportunity to do it with him, it's the 10th anniversary of the movie coming up.
Oh, is it really?
I think we'll release this in May for the 10th anniversary. This movie just changed a lot. It'll be really cool to look back at the last decade and celebrate this movie.
Yeah.
Not celebrate.
I'm gonna celebrate it. I'm celebrating it now.
That sounds slightly idolatrous.
Thank you.
We won't do that. We'll look at it though.
I'll worship it.
Oh, Reagan.
In the first episode, you said you were God. So
That's fine. You gotta have at least one. That's fine.
Anyway, let's move along. Let's each talk about our memories with this movie, how we thought it held up, maybe just our personal experience with it.
Cool.
Anybody have any memories?
I'll go.
For it.
So again, in learning subtext, one of the mediums that I learned that a lot in is through watching a lot of Buffy. I watched a lot of Buffy, kind of post college. It was just on in the morning while I was getting ready and stuff, and man, I just became such a huge fan of Joss Whedon and his ability to tell stories. So when I heard, Marvel was just kind of kicking off and starting, Iron Man had been really good, and everything, but Thor was okay. I liked elements of it. But when I heard he was directing this, I was skeptical. I remember being skeptical of, you can't put this many big characters in one movie. It can't be done.
And he's never done a movie this big.
No.
What was the response at the time? Were people kind of like, "What, Joss? What the heck?"
Yes, that here's the small TV show writer and all this kind of stuff. So I had this hope, but just going, nope, this is going to be a mismatch or whatever. And so going and seeing it, and we were talking last night as we watched it, of just how funny it was, and it was very Joss Whedon humor. I mean, I remember that was Buffy through and through, and so, but just going, he did it. He did it. He brought all these characters together, and he figured out the core of what actually needed to be there, the story. He got the core down, and then just built the movie around it, where so many times things are done the opposite way, right? Yeah. That they just get the big temple pieces and then find loose, poor ways to interconnect them. Yeah. And, the core, the soul of a movie is missing, and he did that first, and, man, did it work.
It's really impressive, too, because thinking now about the other Avengers movies, you could probably turn one of those on and you probably just would have very little idea what was happening. Where this one, I go, other than maybe a little bit of Loki and Thor and their past relationship, I feel like I kind of get reintroduced to every character. I kind of feel like I'm ready to go with all of them. And it stands alone really well.
Yeah, they each get kind of an introduction.
They do,
scene,
which is really good.
It's very cool. I remember, this movie was not, I remember at the time, it was sort of like you, Weston, we didn't know if this movie was going to work or not. Mm-hmm. First time doing this, and Marvel had been building up in phase 1. Now it looks like a guarantee, 30 films later or whatever it is. But it wasn't a guarantee at the time.
No.
No one was trying what Marvel was doing. We're going to do 5 movies and we're going to do a 6th big movie.
Nobody knew this was going to be a thing, but once Avengers hit the way it did, it was like, oh, this is a thing. This is what, the rest of, everybody in the studio, everybody's like, this is what the rest of our lives is going to look like.
Yeah.
We're going to start printing money for the next 10 years.
Yep. And not just superhero films, but everybody started trying to do shared universes.
Yes.
And these, building block puzzle piece movies. And, none of them have worked as well.
It's so like Hollywood, and so many people. I think humans in general are terrible at figuring out what actually caused a thing to be a thing. Mm-hmm. But this is such an example. They're like, oh, why did Marvel succeed? Oh, because they created this unified universe.
Right.
That's not why it succeeded.
And then DC goes, we made Man of Steel, we'll make the very next movie, our Avengers movie.
Yeah, let's just jump right to Avengers.
Right,
it didn't really work.
They took the wrong lesson there. But I remember seeing this opening night and it was just so much fun. It was, like we said earlier, it was surprisingly funny, and amazingly, each character kind of had a moment. Each character breathed, and it was an instant success. It was a home run. It was just crazy how good it was, and it just changed the genre forever. Every movie became this. Even other genres just changed movies for the next generation.
It did.
What do you think?
I really don't have a whole lot of memories with this movie.
You can be quiet.
I don't remember.
How old were you?
Well,
I mean, 10 years ago.
Were you even born?
I was alive. I was like 14. I remember Ultron a lot more. But I think, which is a cool movie, I think I have a lot more respect for it now, similar to the reasons you guys have mentioned. But then when I watched Justice League, the one that he kind of had to step in and fix
the
after
Whedon
Zack
cut?
Snyder. Yes, the Whedon cut. And yes, that movie's got a lot of problems. And then seeing the Zack Snyder one now, I go, okay, this is probably what the movie should have been. But I saw his ability to simply go, here's our protagonist, here's all these characters, and here's what they're about, and here's how they're conflicting. And I go, I can immediately read this movie and get what these characters are about. And I love that quality in this movie. And I just kind of went, every character kind of has a thing, and you can kind of grab onto it. So,
because if you
very readable. It really sets up, someone like Hawkeye or Black Widow, people who never really got their own movies, I mean, this is kind of like their story. And so, they propel these other characters along, too, for the first time, which is cool.
Let's give a general overview of the film's plot. We don't want to go too deep. I think also kind of generally what we thought and felt, how it held up on this most recent watch.
The Tesseract has awakened. It is on a little world, a human world.
So somebody else handle the plot. I don't like doing that.
You probably got better handle on it than I do, honestly. You can do it.
I can. I mean, I live in the theme world. You talk about where we want to land. I'm like, that's where I want to take off.
Okay.
No.
I still barely understand the beginning of this.
The beginning is just so strange.
Yes. It's funny. This last rewatch, when I rewatched it, just before we watched it last night.
Yeah, you watched it twice.
I thought the movie opened on the S.H.I.E.L.D. location. I totally forgot that it opened with this weird speech of the other and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Who is this other character and what's going on? Anyways.
Yes. So we've got to start this space element, right? Because Loki's coming from there. It's this weird ethereal setting. You're not really know what you're looking at, so you're more focused on listening to what the words are. I try to watch the movies through my wife's more practical, less interested in, fantastical elements lens. And you can almost watch that first part and go, what? And then just go, the
movie started now.
Now the movie started.
Okay.
Didn't understand, but it was fast. So
Loki was in a pickup truck for a while. That was fun. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I barely understand that scene. What they're doing.
Well, plot-wise, I guess Loki comes in through the Tesseract. He comes in, possesses a lot of the S.H.I.E.L.D. people, Hawkeye and the Science Man. Science Man, Hawkeye, Loki get away, and Fury goes, whoa, they're going to do something. And I don't really understand why they're aware there's a threat coming, but there's a threat coming. And so
the Tesseract is doing things.
Doing things. Well, they understood that. I mean, again, the theme of power of this Tesseract is, to them, and we now know it's the Space Stone or whatever. But it's this source of unlimited power, and when you kind of know you're dealing with unlimited power, that's a scary thing. They're trying to control it, but they're scary. So as soon as things start to go a little off, I mean, they've clearly built this whole thing around. If something goes bad, we need a fail-safe to bury this thing. Type of thing. So obviously things go bad.
Once Loki gets the stone, you go, we got.
So that's why the facility is destroyed.
I think and then they say Fury's stalling because he's he wants the building to collapse on itself. Like,
interesting.
We'll be and Fury's like, yep, we're gonna be buried like the pharaohs of old.
That's what that line was. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think that's kind of we want to play with this power, but we know we're messing with things that are pretty.
Gotcha.
Cool. So what's the worst thing that could happen? At first they thought the worst thing that could happen was something blows up. Mm-hmm. No, the worst thing that happens. Someone else takes it, and now has the opportunity to use this. Somebody who knows how to use it better than they do.
I am Loki of Asgard. And I am burdened with glorious purpose.
Loki, brother of Thor.
We have no quarrel with your people.
An ant has no quarrel with a boot.
You planning to step on us?
I come with glad tidings of a world made free.
Free from what?
Freedom.
So, I mean, that's really what's starting off the movie of, we're in a dubious situation, and it gets worse.
And the rest of the movie kind of hinges on you questioning S.H.I.E.L.D.'s authority and kind of questioning.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say, because every Avenger kind of questions, is Nick Fury doing the right thing? Is S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Well,
and Captain America even says, that he's got the same blood in his hands Loki does. I mean, I don't remember if he says that about Fury or S.H.I.E.L.D. in general.
I remember that. Mm-hmm.
Type of thing. So there is definitely that.
And that is what, it's kind of, the movie kind of works where it goes, okay, so S.H.I.E.L.D., they have the technology, they have the aircraft carrier, they have everything, and yet they're not going to get the job done. We need something else.
So the Tesseract gets away, and then it kind of becomes the MacGuffin a little bit,
it does.
for the movie. Which, I mean, it makes sense. It's the source of unlimited power, right?
Pretty good MacGuffin.
Yes, honestly. If you're going to have a MacGuffin in a movie that I would say is essentially about power, having the unlimited power thing be the MacGuffin seems like a good thematic way to go.
Yes.
Type of thing. So they spend most of the movie trying to find it.
And Fury's trying to cobble together this team of strange heroes that don't like to play well with each other.
But the council wants to rely on their technology, and they've got a lot of cool technology, right? They have helicarriers that go invisible, and type thing. And Nick Fury knows that's not enough.
It's cool because the movie, when you see the helicarrier and you see it fly out of the water, I think as an audience member, you just look at that and you think, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I like that thing. And it's setting up the action scene later, but I don't know, it makes S.H.I.E.L.D. look so cool. And then it just starts to kind of question them bit by bit.
Yeah. And literally there's this part towards the end where Fury is looking at the observation port, and I go, this is the Empire. Just the shot, the gray metal. He's got his arms behind his back. He's brooding.
He's on the bridge, yeah.
And of course, his Winter Soldier is about to come next, too. But anyway.
It's a smart movie. One of the things that I was just so struck by rewatching it last night was just Joss Whedon's just a great writer. Just the way he's layering things and everything. It's just a gigantic puzzle piece and everything fits together. Not even to... And that's just kind of the mechanics of the plot, not even to get into the themes and the visuals he's working with.
You need to accomplish certain things in the plot. You need to develop your characters. You need to, all these different things that you have to do, and to do them efficiently together while making it funny and enjoyable to watch. And not just like, oh, this script is ticking the boxes. Oh, character arc. Plot point done.
Thor and Hulk fight.
How many movies where you're just like, oh, they clearly had to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Well, how did that happen? Why? Exposition. Well, we'll just throw a line of exposition. That'll explain everything.
Right.
And he very much has like, I never want to just solve a problem through exposition.
Yeah.
I want to solve it through characters, and it's good enough. I think sometimes people write and they write themselves into a corner, so they do that line of exposition rather than just going back and going, okay, how do I write earlier so I don't get myself into this problem?
Position. Yeah.
I wonder if he learned that through just the years of TV writing.
Oh, I would think so.
You only got so many scenes. You got 24 minutes, 22, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And you just got to set things up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You have to think ahead and be that kind of efficient, type of thing. So anyway, it was good. Back to plot. Tesseract gets away. So then it's really, Nick Fury having his ideologies, wars are won by soldiers, not through just S.H.I.E.L.D. technology. We need to pull these key people together, and then the next however many are pulling the people together, getting Hulk there, getting Captain America there. He sends Phil Coulson to get, Iron Man on board, and then get them all on the helicarrier.
Yeah,
that's all the first act is. We're
get them all together.
Right, we're assembling.
And they don't get along.
We're assembling. They don't get along. Yeah, they start fighting and bickering.
Yeah.
And
there's a pretty early scene where they capture Loki. Iron Man kind of steals the spotlight, and they're transporting him back. And then Thor jumps in and is talking to Loki, and they start fighting over who gets taken. Loki is just the team is falling apart.
Because it's awesome. Because it's Weston, you revealed to us, or you told us that Joss Whedon reveals that one of the directives was these guys got to fight each other.
Yeah. Yes.
And the whole scene is kind of built around that, but it works. But I mean, that scene's awesome because you get to see Captain America and Iron Man and Thor all kind of fight.
Yeah.
And they lose Loki, and you think, oh, they lost Loki because they were fighting and they're not working together and they have their egos. But then Loki's just captured again.
There's really no consequences at all.
Yeah,
well, he doesn't leave. He's just enjoying watching the show, right?
Up on the hill.
And he's like, I did this.
That's a bit of sleight of hand in the movie where you don't see them recapture Loki. They just got him.
He just waited.
I'd say I don't think he's trying to evade. So I don't even know if you call it. It's basically you sit here while the parents fight.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they show him a couple times like looking down, kind of smiling.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So just to comment on that scene, because being the movie geek that I am and having watched the commentary with Joss Whedon, he described so well, and given the directive, Iron Man and Thor had to fight, and Hulk and Thor had to fight. But she said, especially with the Iron Man and Thor, he never wanted to make a fight scene that was only about a fight, and the whole time he said he hated the scenes where you're just wishing the characters would stop and talk. And you're like, oh, this is just a misunderstanding. Nobody wants to see a fight about a misunderstanding type of thing. He says, but if you make it about their difference in ideologies, Thor wants to handle things one way, Iron Man wants to handle things another. He said, now you don't have a fight, you have conflict. They have very different approaches on how to handle things, and they so deeply believe that their approach is right that it's worth fighting for. That's something everybody can identify with.
Yeah.
And again, I would say is one of the core things of the movie. And of course, Captain America trying to be the good guy Boy Scout of, hey guys, let's not fight, let's all get along, and toe the line and follow orders, and that's how he really believes things should be handled, and everything. So, and that's really just the precursor as they all get on the helicarrier. Loki continues to chat and stir the pot and has, I think, the staff to help him along and everything. Then you get to, as you have now all had the proper introductions of the characters, you really get to see their approaches to whatever you want to call it, power, control. This is how I think this situation should be handled. And I kind of wonder if Joss Whedon did this. If he broke down each character, how does Nick Fury want to control the situation? How does Iron Man want to control the situation? How does Bruce Banner want to, what are all those things? And if you actually kind of look and try to write those all out, they all have very distinct, for the most part. I struggle with getting Black Widow's and Fury's distinct, but they have pretty distinct views on control and power. And again, I think we all have that. I mean, even high school, right? You knew the kid who relied on being funny. You knew the kid who relied on sports. You knew the kid who relied on their looks. You knew the kid who, I mean, high school is easier to break down into those characters like that. Yeah. But in adults, we do it a little more subtly, but we do it a lot of the same ways. So there's something so human about that in this fantastical show that I think, again, helps ground it for us. Even if you don't consciously see it, like you're watching a character interaction, not a superhero interaction.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think there's a lot of threads, but to me, I'm not saying it collapsed down, but to me, it got really honed in with Iron Man and Captain America.
Big man in a suit of armor. Take that off. What are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
I know guys with none of that worth 10 of you. I've seen the footage. The only thing you really fight for is yourself. You're not the guy to make the sacrifice play, to lay down on a wire and let the other guy crawl over you.
I think I would just cut the wire.
Always a way out. You may not be a threat, but you better stop pretending to be a hero.
A hero? Like you? You're a laboratory experiment, Rogers. Everything special about you came out of a bottle.
Even the way it was shot, I feel like they would be having conversation scenes, but then we get really close on those two.
That's very
true.
And
I feel like those were the main strands where I went, this is where I'm seeing Joss doing a lot of talking. This is where some ideas are being...
These guys clearly disagree.
Yeah.
It's not that they just are fighting, they are opposed.
Yes, completely different worldviews and ideologies.
But you're right, all the other shots are a little more wide. It's a group discussion.
On them,
but
really close.
Their discussion is face to face, and it really is the kind of individual approach or team approach.
Exactly.
What's interesting though is that scene on the helicarrier where everything starts to go wrong. Cap and Iron Man are the first ones to work together.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty great. Yeah.
I love that scene. It's great, and I love that part where Iron Man has to kind of humble himself and say, just because I know this technical babble, it's not that I'm better or smarter than anyone. I need to dumb this down for Cap.
Yeah.
It's not that he's stupid or less than.
I see this is working on electricity.
Some form of electricity, yeah. That's a great line. But I always, just being super picky, I wish Cap had a little more to do in that sequence because he just starts kind of hanging on things. I like when he gets a gun.
Yes.
But anyway.
But even then, he's just pointing and shooting.
Right.
And frankly, too, sorry, I don't want to get here too early, but it does feel like Captain America doesn't change that much in the movie. I guess at the beginning, he's got maybe a little bit of some personal problems going on that's kind of resolved. Yeah. He's got this role at the end. But I feel like Iron Man kind of repents to Captain America, but Captain America never really changes his tune about Iron Man, considering Iron Man is the one who sacrifices himself at the end. And Captain America's,
that's true.
Captain America's critique of Iron Man was you wouldn't sacrifice yourself. He
does
down to the wire. He does. There's never a scene where I go, hey, I misjudged you. Welcome, Tony. You're my friend. I wish that was there. There's one beat that's missing.
I think because there's some critiques of everybody's form of power or control, and I think the only real one of Captain America is his kind of naivete of following orders. Yeah. Right. But it's not played out that much. He goes and then discovers there are weapons, and then he's like, so then when Iron Man's like, I'm not marching to his pipe, or whatever, then Captain America says, I'm not either.
Yeah.
His arc's done.
I guess is. I guess you could say rather than being a soldier, he becomes a leader at the end.
Yeah.
Giving out orders, being a commander. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, teamwork is his thing, so it makes sense to lean into that. But yeah, it's definitely not the contrast and arc that Iron Man has.
No.
You know, but also, I mean, again, he's supposed to be the good guy, right? And so you're not going to have the character flaws stand out. What are good people's often flaws? A naivete.
Yeah.
Thinking, well, you know, because they're good, the rest of the world's good too, type of thing. And so, you know, does he grow in that? Yes. Is it highlighted that much? No.
And look, he still gets played by Nick Fury to even go out and fight again.
Yep.
That's true.
So,
Yeah, we'll talk about
Nick
that.
Fury's more out in this movie. Not really sure what's going on with him.
Despite Joss's, he did a great job writing all these characters. He still kind of had to pick one, which was Tony.
Yeah.
And, I mean,
the big one.
Tony Stark is the spine of the MCU.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to
out.
focus on him, definitely.
And again, you look at those early movies. Which one was the good one?
Yeah, definitely.
It's
Iron Man's the best one.
And who's the most compelling character? It's Iron Man.
Yes.
You know, so it does. It makes sense.
Well, let's just wrap up the plot. So
Loki plays them off each other. He escapes with the Tesseract again.
Tesseract, he's going to open a portal for the army to come through.
Yeah.
And the Avengers, they got to come back together.
Yep.
And what does Nick Fury do to do this? To trick him or something?
Well, Phil Coulson, strangely, went up against Loki alone, dies, and then
it's awesome.
It's really cool. He has a really cool gun that does something.
Even I don't know what it does.
I don't know what it does. And then Nick Fury's able to leverage that sacrifice as a myth-making moment of people need a team or whatever.
There was an idea. Stark knows this. Called the Avengers Initiative. The idea was to bring together a group of remarkable people. See if they could become something more. See if they could work together when we needed them to fight the battles that we never could. Phil Coulson died still believing in that idea. In heroes.
And they go off. They stop Loki.
But Thor was on the ground when that happened. Also, Hulk was naked when that happened.
There's some questions. Okay, whatever.
Yes, and you can see. I mean, there's definitely. I mean, plot and visual wise, there is a struggle at that point in the movie. You know, what gets Thor to New York? He's having insecurity about should he pick up the hammer? Is he worthy? Blah blah. And then all of a sudden he's lifting the hammer, and there's a tornado around him. And then
it's awesome.
He flies to.
It's just awesome.
He flies to New York, and you're
his whole arc is in like one shot. Do I pick it up? Yeah, I pick it up. I'm good.
Yes,
it's great.
It definitely had that feel of, oh, I didn't write how Thor's going to get on board here.
It's
I'm
a
just
lot
gonna
of
do this.
characters.
And again, so I feel like, you know, when 95% of the stuff is going well, you allow a little conceits here and there. You know, Banner and the guy who gives him his pants.
He got some pants.
You know,
I love that scene. Harry Dean Stanton, rest in peace. Classic,
Feller, you got a condition.
Classic character actor. Son, you've got a condition.
But that scene feels very like fill this hole.
Yes.
You know,
Well, he's in a hole at the moment. Yes.
Well, he's in a pile of rubble, isn't he?
It was a hole.
I guess
a
it's a hole.
hole
Right.
through a building.
Yes.
Yeah.
Type of thing. So, but yes, the galvanization, you know, of the team through Phil Coulson's death, which I'll get back to with the theme stuff and everything, brings them together, and they come and they do work together to stop Loki, and even the non-powered people really help. You know, Black Widow's the one who actually shuts the portal down, and Iron Man does put himself on the line, and you know, then they all get shawarma at the end, whatever that is.
Whatever that is, still not sure about that.
I think it's lamb. I'm gonna go with lamb. I think that's right.
Sounds cool.
But I would say they perhaps all humble themselves to come together and say we're better together than we are apart. Yeah. I think it kind of underscores it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great movie. Any other plot threads we want to mention?
Well, I think we have to mention that. So Loki is, he's bringing an army to Earth.
We said that.
He's also possessing people,
Sort of.
but at the beginning, it seems like he's doing it for this ideological reason, which we'll get into, I'm sure. But then you kind of learn, no, he's doing it as a pride thing. He's been kicked out of Asgard. But he still feels like I deserve to rule. I deserve to have a thing to do. And you kind of very quickly learn you're just kind of this petulant brat who just kind of wants a win, wants to look good in front of the space people. So I don't know.
In front of Thor, probably.
Exactly. And so you have to go, okay, so even Loki's motives are it's much more selfish than even the ideological methods he is proposing they're about. They're claiming they're about. So
that's good.
Yeah.
So what is the movie saying? Teamwork? Teamwork's good?
A lot of things.
Yes. Well, I think even as you were hitting the humbling thing, the way I've always described it when I preach, using this as an illustration type of thing, is, so many movies have that one speech, especially if someone monologues a little bit, in a movie. My ears are always perked up of, is this the central thesis of the movie? And so you have that central theme or central speech from Loki.
Is not this simpler? Is this not your natural state? It's the unspoken truth of humanity that you crave subjugation. The bright lure of freedom diminishes your life's joy in a mad scramble for power, for identity. You were made to be ruled. In the end, you will always kneel.
And I love that the guy stands up and you expect him to say, I think even one of you said it in my house last night, not me, I'm not going to kneel or whatever, but he doesn't. He didn't say, not to men like you. And then there's a funny back and forth and all that kind of stuff. But it's, almost as Joss Whedon's saying, we all kneel. We're all going to kneel to something, right? It's just a matter of what you kneel to. And usually what many of us kneel to, right, we want to kneel only to ourselves. We want to, like Loki, we want to be king. And, Thor wants everybody to kneel to his plan. Iron Man wants everybody to kneel to his plan. Fury wants to manipulate everybody to his plan. Captain America, let's all just kneel and do the right thing. And, everybody's got, again, their own form of power, their own form of control. Wow. But what ultimately gets them to kneel? It's the self-sacrifice of kind of the most humble character in the group. Right. The self-sacrifice of, the suffering servant, or whatever you want to say. Right. It's that humble sacrifice that they all kneel to that gets them on board, and that gets them unified and gets them to give up their own throne. Because like Tony Stark said, there is no throne. There's no throne for them. That's not something that can be ruled. Now, however much you want to make of that. But I just love that theme. Because I think so much of the time we go, no, you should be in charge of your own destiny, and you should. It's just kind of the humanist view and everything.
Liberation language, kind of freedom,
right? And you're like, you can try that, but it's not going to work. And I love the truth that Joss Whedon's getting at here is it's really through humility and service that's true freedom that you're going to get compared to what everybody talks about as freedom. So there, I'm monologuing.
That's good.
That's how I see, and I feel like I see it from the beginning to the end. The theme of power, I usually call it control. It just hits on so many different times, levels, ways, different characters, different lines. And even the beginning and the end is still about power and control and ruling. Those bookend scenes in the post-credit and the pre-credit scene of in space and all that kind of stuff. It's all, so Joss Whedon said, this is my theme. How do I build the themes into the characters? How do I build the themes into the plot? How do I build the theme into the MacGuffin? Man, he just does it everywhere.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback off that, what's really cool with Loki's kind of lack of conviction, as Thor says, is. I think we'll all will.
It's Coulson who says it.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Someone smart.
His first name is Agent.
Mr. Agent. Anyway, I think what's cool about that, because Loki's motives are not as ideological as like we were saying earlier, is that it's kind of saying, yes, we will all need to serve somebody. We will all kneel. But someone like Loki, someone who's just purely selfish, a true ruler rules through serving. There's a service element
Thor
inherent.
says,
you think yourself above them.
Oh, yes.
Then you miss the truth of ruling, brother. The throne would suit you ill.
It's awesome line.
Yes, because you say, okay, doesn't Loki have conviction? He really wants to rule, but like we've kind of already said, no. And you see when Coulson says you lack conviction, you expect him to be like, no, look, I really believe this. And no, what does he really believe? He believes he's entitled, right?
Yeah. Loki is taken aback by that. He's convicted by that.
And the actor Tom Hiddleston does a great job. You see this subtle, it's a slight, where you see a little insecurity in him. But Thor really calls it out in him on the mountain when they're arguing, and I mean, again, how many people when you hit that nerve of what really is their issue? They say it's one thing, they make great arguments, and you feel you're arguing about that one thing, and man, it seems like they're winning, and then you hit that nerve of what it's really about, that it's really that personal insecurity thing, and then you get a reaction out of them. And so when Thor says to him, like, okay, basically you're going to take over Earth because of your perceived slights, but how many people are easily slighted because of this personal insecurity, and it's not really about that. I think Loki is such a good example for that, and that's why I find this funny. Like 10 years later, I was really surprised how well that still worked, which shouldn't surprise us. If you're writing a movie about how the human heart works, it should work at any time.
Timeless, yeah. I was struck by, I thought I kept seeing these idols in the movie, like Joss kept throwing in these different objects of worship, which goes with the kneeling thing. Is people are kneeling to other gods or other idols, and they don't realize it. And I thought he was playing with different images. It introduces an icon in the scene where Black Widow's introduced. It's icon of Mary holding Jesus. Yeah. And then there's
an altar. There's
an basically there's this altar. There's this statue of a bull, and that is where Loki kills a guy and takes his eyeballs out. That's
awesome.
That's a cool scene. And just mentioning the tombs of the pharaohs and the Chitauri alien army. They look Egyptian.
All the New York stuff.
Grand Central Station is it's featured prominently in a lot of shots, and the Stark Tower is right above Grand Central Station. It makes me think of Ghostbusters, where they, I don't know, it's like the nexus of energy is pulling the portal through. But anyway, and on top of Grand Central Station is a statue of Mercury or Hermes. I'm not sure which one it's supposed to be, but the god of speed and communication, and they the builders in New York use that as a symbol of transportation and connecting people together. And I just wonder, what is Joss doing with all these sort of pagan idolatrous things? Not that Mary is pagan, but anyway, it seems like he's kind of playing in a sandbox there.
Yeah,
all these things are in the same ballpark. I was wondering why are you doing this? Because, like we said, I think he's a good enough writer, a very smart writer. He's not putting these things in here for no reason.
But it makes you wonder how much of because when I would preach this as an illustration to students, or whatever. I mean, I would kind of I would take Captain America's following orders or Stark's intelligence type of thing and I would just say, we make those things idols.
Yeah.
Right? To a student, like, how am I going to get through life? I'm going to be the smart guy. How am I going to get through life? I'm going to be the athletic. I'm going to be stronger than everybody. That's an idol. Did Joss Whedon, does he have enough Christian background to make those kind of philosophical connections? It seems like he does.
I think he does, yeah. I really... Yeah. I feel like I've read he was raised Christian, he was really into it, and then he kind of fell out. But it's still in there.
Awesome.
Reagan, you want to say anything about the message of the movie?
I think you guys have hit it pretty well. I just think maybe a few more details around just the myth making of all of this, of maybe some of those idols, but also the self-sacrificial part of the movie is I'm not saying it's a myth, but I do go, well, Phil Coulson didn't actually die. I don't really know what to make of that. And then of course
he didn't die.
He's resurrected in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm not saying in the movie, I apologize.
I forgot.
But, and then you got he's kind of concocted this story to kind of really get them to do this thing. And so obviously there's something there. I'm not sure what exactly it's saying about religion and myth making, but there's something odd there.
Let's cover that in the not Bible section.
Probably good to do that. But yeah, the movie's saying something about all that there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, you guys want to move into some Bible?
Let's get the Bible out.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got it.
Well, I'm going to start with an easy one. So we were talking about humility, and these characters have to kneel to something else.
Yeah.
They have to look at each other in a new way. They have to lose these perceived slights. And the best scene is when they're all arguing, like we mentioned, and there's that crazy shot where the camera flips over and the Mind Stone's upside down. That scene, I just kept thinking, Matthew 7, why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye?
Cool.
So just great verse about hypocrisy and realizing you're just as screwed up as Iron Man, you're just as screwed up as Cap. Cap, you're just as screwed up as everybody else.
Yeah.
Why are you judging each other?
That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah. And there's something about kind of their relationship as a unit where the word family came to mind, and it really gets drug in just more where the series progresses. But you go, this is like a spiritual family. I was kind of thinking about
you
that.
You kept saying, I just heard you murdering the whole movie. Spiritual family. Spiritual family.
Spiritual family. But I was kind of go, all these people, they've all got hurt, so they all got tragic backstories, and they're all finding new purpose with each other. But it made me think, as they were kind of arguing and stuff like that, just kind of what Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians 12. He talks about noses. Just kidding. What does he say? Basically, he says, for just as one body is one and has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, so is Christ. And basically saying the idea of, for the body is not consist of one member, but of many. If the foot should say, because I'm not a hand, I don't belong to the body, that would not make it any less part of the body. And then basically it says, what would, if the whole body were an ear, where would be the sense of smell? Anyway, basically, when everybody in the body is trying to be the same thing, it just doesn't work out. Yes,
which Avenger is which body part? Tony Stark, brain?
Brain. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and Tony kind of, before they come together as a family, right? He goes, which one of us in the room is not useful, to Captain? Captain America, he says that.
He's wearing a spangled costume or whatever.
Right. Yes.
But what's really cool with him is right when they got that epic hero shot in New York, he kind of says, okay, Cap, you call it. You call the play. And you see that he has put himself, because usually he would be that dominant position, and he's kind of saying, I'm probably the foot here. Yeah, I'm the foot. I'm the foot. That's fine. I'm good, Cap. I'm
going to kick the missile.
You're the mouth,
through the
whatever.
Through the goal.
So I just kind of saw this body image of everybody's trying to be the same thing, and they're realizing, no, we all have a role to play. Let's play that role.
To pull one more verse from that Matthew passage, you hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye.
Cool.
And they all do that.
They all do that.
I think.
Yeah.
Well, certainly.
Captain America does it, but everybody else does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
How does Black Widow do that? How does Hulk do that?
Well, Hulk has a strange character transformation that's not clear to me, but he does decide to help, which is good.
Angry.
He's always angry. Ooh.
What does that mean?
Not sure.
Let's put that in not Bible.
Not Bible.
Yeah. and again, I think Joss Whedon admitted he didn't get to do with the Hulk what he wanted. Black Widow, I think more her thing was less taking the speck out of her eye, but kind of dealing with what else was in her. Just she has this, the red in her ledger, but really the balancing the scales. Here's this person who kind of decided not to kill her, but to save her, and now she has the opportunity. She has to stop him. Everybody else would probably be fine if she had to kill him, but she wants to not kill him and save him. That's more her arc, type of thing. So I don't know that, their arc doesn't fit as neatly into the control power, speck out of your eye type of thing.
It does speak to some of your insecurities you were talking about earlier, though, where she's, trying to I guess, interrogate Loki. And she mentions the whole blood in the ledger speech, the red in the ledger. And you go, oh, and then when she reveals she's just applying information, you go, oh, she was just kind of joking the whole time, or just kind of. But then later she's talking to Hawkeye and says, yeah, I've got a lot of red in my ledger. And you go, even there she was revealing something, and Loki got to her in that way. So, yeah, she's still being vulnerable there, which is kind of cool.
Isn't with her there's something where she's... I don't know. She's always been a spy, never really had to believe in anything before.
Yeah.
And with this she finds something, I actually can be part of this. This is actually something to fight for.
She says somewhere that she's doing this because she's a debt to pay.
Yeah.
And I just go, I think that was with Loki, but then later she kind of says similar language, and I go... Okay, so she's kind of finding her place. It's because she believes in these people. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So
and again, especially as in him, because somebody else, made a decision that saved her, so that motivates her to make a decision, a selfless decision, type of thing. So there's that relational component, and I mean, there's other cool stuff that she knows what it means to be unmade, and all that kind of. There are some good lines, but it is a little side theme that doesn't, it speaks into the insecurity stuff and what's going on in the internal world, but it doesn't. I don't think it necessarily lines up quite as much in Control. Unless you really want to get into the whole mind control thing, which we didn't hit on too much, and what that. I mean, you have the weird lines of, that's in the not Bible stuff.
Yeah, let's just say that.
Okay. That kind of stuff. I'll hit at a couple verses, but I'll just say Luke 18:9. Jesus told a parable to some who trusted in themselves. Again, that's what I see so much in this movie. Of everybody wants to trust in their way, in themselves, whatever their particular strengths are. I just always joke, your greatest strength is usually also your greatest weakness because you rely on it too much. And so Jesus goes on to tear the parable with that verse. He starts off with that, and it's the parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector. One of these guys lives a really clean life. does a lot of good, follows the rules, knows his Bible, and the other guy doesn't. And what does Jesus end up saying? All those good things that guy does is what's keeping him from a relationship with the Father. It's all these guys' strengths that everybody else will point to and say, man, that guy's disciplined. I wish I had his discipline. I wish I could live a life like that.
Genius, billionaire, philanthropist.
Right? Who doesn't want that? It sure seems like they're blessed.
Yeah.
And yet Jesus is going, those very things that you're trusting in that seem to be bringing you success are actually the things that are keeping you from true success, true power, true whatever you want to say. And so that was the kind of the one that really landed for me.
That's cool.
That's great.
I think with Loki's speech, though, I think we all kind of went, there's a true kernel in here somewhere.
Yeah.
Because, there's just so many verses in the Bible talking about freedom. And I found a couple where it kind of says, hey, you were, through Christ you were set free. And obviously that doesn't quite get to what the movie's saying, but in Galatians, let's see, where is the verse at?
Unprepared.
I was ready. Where is it? Yes. Anyway,
for freedom's sake, you've been set
exactly.
free.
Galatians 5:1. For freedom, Christ has set us free. Stand firm, therefore, and do not submit again to a yoke of slavery. But then later he develops the theme, in verse 13, and says, for you are called to freedom, brothers. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another. For the whole law is fulfilled in one word: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Anyway, just this cool idea of you are called to freedom. Yes, you are free from sin. You are free. However, that's not the end. That's not the end of the message. That's not the end of what you're meant to do with your freedom.
Because also, how many passages in the New Testament called us, I'm a bondservant of Christ.
Exactly.
I was a slave to sin. Now I'm a slave to righteousness. So again, you're going to bow to something. It's not just, well, you've been freed, so now do whatever you want.
Yeah. And that bondservant terminology is usually one person who is a slave or a servant, but then chooses willingly to stay on, chooses willingly to submit themselves to the master. It's cool.
That is cool. That made me think of something else. At the end, they don't kill Loki.
Yeah.
They capture him, and they bind his mouth. So first of all, there's mercy in that. We're not going to kill you, Loki, even though you tried to destroy the earth. So that's cool. But then binding his mouth, there's some great verses in the Bible. Been reading James lately, and
the danger of the tongue.
The danger of the tongue. Yeah,
the whole chapter.
Must bridle the tongue, and the tongue can tell the truth, but it can tell lies. You can do both.
Yeah.
And where the Loki's punishment is to bind his mouth. That's really cool.
It's pretty sweet.
I had one more. When Tony falls, I just thought of, you've got this great moment of sacrifice. Even though he doesn't die in this film, he does ultimately give his life.
Spoiler. No, I'm just kidding.
Sorry, everybody. Just spoiled the last 10 years of cinema.
Oh, well.
Don't know where you've been.
Yes.
But anyway, it's a heroic moment. It's a sacrificial moment. Hero's death. He's falling, and he's falling out of the portal in the sky. And I just thought, this sounds like something Jesus said. And then will appear in heaven the sign of the Son of Man. And then all the tribes of the earth will mourn. They will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory.
Wow.
Matthew 24:30. I think that's in all synoptics, some version of that. But something about that is, obviously the sacrificial death is the thing that sits upon the throne. But then you've got it is literally coming out of the clouds, from a portal in the sky. So there's something there that's cool.
Yeah.
So Joss Whedon is saying Iron Man's Jesus.
I think Joss Whedon's latent Christianity does not allow him to write anything else.
Yes, exactly.
other than service and sacrifice have the throne, the thing worth worshiping.
Yeah. It's awesome, and I mean he says it in the Upper Room Discourse in John 15. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends.
Yeah.
And he just at that moment he goes, I gotta do this thing. It's just really cool. It's the character you would least expect it from.
And as he
well.
falls, everyone's just reverently. Oh gosh.
And I'm like, someone should catch him. Just someone catch him, please.
Reminds me of that moment in Superman Returns. Not a great film, but a beautiful moment where the same verse would apply when Superman's falling and the whole city is just gazing up at him reverently.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Son of Man piercing the clouds.
Yeah.
It's cool.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Any other Bible?
I mean, they got others, but Jeremiah 17, and everybody, likes to say verse 9, the heart is deceitful above all things. Again, is their own hearts and strengths are deceiving them, as desperately wicked, who can understand that? But then the next verse, I, the Lord, search the heart and test the mind, to give every man according to his way and according to the fruit of his deeds. And so there's both that, yes, our strength can lead us astray, but kind of like you described with the bondservant thing, like the Lord tests the heart and then uses that strength, for his good. It's, yes, if your intelligence is your thing, can it lead you astray? Yes, but as you submit to the Lord, it's probably your intelligence that the Lord's going to use, the most type of thing. And so, yes, can our hearts lead us astray? But as, I never want to create any atmosphere where people are going like, oh, I had this strength, but oh, it's bad. I wish I didn't have. Like, no. It's a good thing, and the Lord wants to use it, but it needs to not be an idol. And the things that are most likely are idols tend to be good things. There are the bad ones, for sure. Those are generally easy to spot. I never knew that alcohol could destroy my life. Shocker, type of thing. But not realizing your reliance on your intelligence and that's going to be what saves you and everything and turns you into a smug, arrogant person that no one wants to be around. You're like, oh, I may not have seen that coming.
That's really cool. Dang.
Any others?
That's what I got.
Cool. Well, let's move on to not Bible.
Not Bible.
Where'd this movie go wrong? Where did Joss Whedon's humanism just take over?
Well, I don't know.
Or did it? Maybe it didn't.
I would say I don't even know I want to go there yet.
Okay.
Because I think I wondered about Joss Whedon's clearly bringing, I don't know if I'd say biblical, but religious language into it, and I couldn't quite decide if he's making a mock of it and he's throwing stones at it, or if he's trying to say bad people can use this. To their own evil ends.
Which scene are you thinking of?
There's a number. Loki shows up. I have a glorious purpose.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he says, "I'm here to bring glad tidings."
Okay.
I mean, how do you not? And then he goes, "Accept in your heart, and you will know peace."
Oh yeah.
When he starts taking people over,
And then the science guy later says, "This tesseract is showing me it's not just knowledge; it's truth." And I just go, "What?"
And as you really start to try to analyze this whole, when the Tesseract does take over, what is it doing? And
he's seeing things. He's seeing things he's wanted. He's seeing, I guess, new science discoveries.
And there is a kind of comfort that comes with even a perverted sense of certainty. That when you have a clear-minded, I want to be all about this. I think it's Billy Graham used to tell the story years ago of someone who was dedicated to communism. They really believed communism was going to change the world for the better, and they gave everything up for it. And he's like, we don't treat Christianity the way that guy treats communism. I'm generally not a fan of communism, whatever, but there is something that comes when you have that level of clarity, conviction. So is that kind of what he's saying? You can't quite. I've never felt confident going, is he trying to knock that? I see so much other good Bible stuff in there. Yeah. To me, it was more he's taking his language and say, this is how people pervert it to their own bad ends. That was kind of...
It seems like Fury is the linchpin a little bit, because Fury is the one he's kind of doing that as well.
Yes.
And then
using Coulson.
Yeah, and that doesn't... It's a good guy doing it, so I just don't know what to make of that.
One note on the Mind Stone. I think this is probably the weakest part of the script and the film and what it's saying, because mind control is just dumb. It's just boring. I don't like it. Hey, I touched you with this. Sorry. Humans just don't work like that. And I try to devise in my mind, oh no, the Mind Stone's tempting them. It's tempting Dr. Selvig, Science Man, with the thing he's always wanted. Mm-hmm. But is that really happening? Because Weston, you pointed out last night, I mean, because with Hawkeye, he sort of comes out of it by reconnecting with Black Widow, but someone else just gets hit on the head. And it's just, what is the Mind Stone doing? If it were dealing with temptation, I would buy it a lot more. But I'm just not sure that's what's happening.
And you have this whole cool moment where Cap is supposed to get, controlled, but he can't because he's not tempted by anything.
It's like the One Ring or something like that.
Be kind of cool. Just not the way it was.
Little confused, a little messy there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can never fully get to a place where I go, oh, I know what that is and what it's doing. It is a little nebulous, because I think you're right. I think if you were just dealing with Dr. Science Guy, you could probably make that case. Mm-hmm. But for Hawkeye, you don't get he's always really wanted to take down, whatever. Right. And it does seem to accentuate some of your own things, like he goes after things the way he wouldn't go after them, and Selvig goes after things the way he would go after it. But it definitely takes their strengths, and again, twists them, perverts them, and points them in a crazy direction.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's that's the closest thing you could kind of say. But Loki kind of says, I'm going to make him, he's still my monkey. I'll make him do whatever I want. So there is, but they're certainly not all just zombies and you just have to tell them what to do. They're still them, which I suppose if you've ever had a friend who's gotten in a cult, drank some Kool-Aid, it's almost a little like that. They're still them, and yet they're still being crazy.
They're possessed by something.
Yes. So that's kind of always the closest thing I get to the Mind Stone type of thing. But I think, plot-wise, it accomplishes what it needs to accomplish without being super clear.
Yeah. Because then later, it's also what is it certainly is making situations worth with the team. You see that great shot where you go, the presence of the scepter here is doing something. So even just its presence near the team is exaggerating their tensions and all that and their conflict.
One Ring.
Yeah, exactly.
One Ring.
Yeah.
That's different. Well, I mean
there's a shot just like it in the Fellowship when the whole council is arguing and you see the ring.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true. The difference with the One Ring, though, is that people know what it does and they're tempted by it.
Yeah.
So
sure.
No one's tempted you. There's that weird shot where Hulk's he's just holding
it.
What were you going to do with it? But, oh well.
Yeah.
You don't get to see my party trick. I have a little more on the Not Bible. At the end of the day, what is this movie saying? What is Joss Whedon's? If you have to analyze this movie as a piece of cultural artifact, you're an alien, come to Earth, and that's what you have. What does this person believe? He's got a lot of the sacrifice and stuff in here, but it's still humanistic. I mean, even at the end of the day, like, how does it actually get done? Fury manipulates. It still values being clever, thinking ahead. Right.
And you've got an elite group of people who come together to save everyone else.
Yeah. Yes, there's definitely that. But there is, I think, the power of this cheesy or whatever teamwork. And I do think the power of kind of humanity, teamwork, is the closest thing that secularism really can get to spirituality.
Yeah.
If you're gonna truly, the power, and community is powerful. And I do think the closer you get to the powerful things that God instituted, community, marriage. That's why so many things are focused on love relationships. The closer you get to that, that's the closest they can get without going to God, without going to, or even just, they don't want to go to spirituality in general. They're wanting to keep things grounded in humanistic, things as much as they can. So I do think that's still the core ideology of the movie. But it is funny how many other things spill out around that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that would be the thing that jumped out to me of like, where this doesn't really line up with scripture is it's, at the end of the day, it's a humanistic movie. But man, it is just littered with biblical, religious iconography and messages. And if you want to find it, it is there to mine for hours.
Yeah. I think we have to mention there's a line where Captain America just says,
"There's only one God, man. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that."
Yeah,
it's great. So
and Loki, it's weird. Language like that, Loki thinks himself a god, but then he's shown to he's kind of just a dude.
And then Hulk goes puny god.
Puny god.
And I go
puny god. Why did that bother you?
I just went, this is weird. Again, Hulk as a character, I go, got some anger issues.
Well, and depending on how far you want to go, even the Loki Thor scene, as I was looking at that big picture of, we want to sit on the throne, but it's really the Lord who wants to sit, who's supposed to sit on the throne. And Loki is upset that this other god is on the throne and he feels like he should be on it. And so think about people's complaints about God, like, your Earth is under your protection. Look what humanity is doing.
They're slaughtering each other. He says that,
you're doing a terrible job, and what are you doing about it? You're sitting back and fretting. Oh, you feel bad about it. Well, you're doing a bad job, so I'm going to take over and I'm going to do a better job. Now, again, is it really about that he thinks he's going to do a better job? He probably believes that, but at the end of the day, it's really about the fact that his life isn't going the way he wants, and so he wants everything to change, so his life goes his way. But you can almost read elements of this movie, and definitely elements of that scene of, that... God in charge of things, like, don't like how it is, and we want to be on the throne. Yeah. We are Loki. Type. Now, I don't say Thor is God, but there's definitely an element of that there, which I find is a little interesting. But again, it's never that it doesn't get developed that far.
No.
I wouldn't hang my hat on it.
Is Loki trying to like convince Earth to bow to him, or is he trying to destroy it by opening a portal of killers?
I think he wants to rule it.
Rule it. So he's got to at least dominate a couple cities.
Yeah.
And everybody will bow, I guess.
So
okay.
I think it's. I mean, you know, do you think yourself above him? Yes. I mean, there's just like no, like of course I'm above them.
It's obvious.
You know, type of thing.
Can we talk about Coulson a little more?
Yeah.
And the myth, the whatever you want to call it, is, you know, obviously he does die, and I'd forgotten he comes back in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But in this movie, he does die. People mourn, and he is very much in a servant role because he's the meek one. He has no superpowers, and he's just an employee. You know, whatever you want to call it. And he was kind of a fan favorite because he's in, you know, the other films, and he's kind of setting up the movies. But anyway, you know, Fury's sort of sleight of hand, whatever you want to call it. He sort of creates. What does he do exactly? He's got the cards, and then he shows that the cards have blood on them.
So he put the blood on the cards, and puts them
the
on
cards
the table.
were in the locker. He says that Phil had them in his pocket.
Right. And
he
earlier in the
believed
movie,
in this, and he needed that to do what he did.
Right. Early in the movie, it sets up that he's a big Captain America fan.
Yeah.
He believed in a hero. Anyway, just what is that saying? Is that saying that, you know, Christianity, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but even if it's a myth, look at all the good it does. I don't know.
It's just weird because you could just excise this. The movie would be. I wonder why it's even there. Honestly, obviously Joss Whedon must believe some form of this, but
there's got to be something to bring them together. The plot does. Need
what
that.
if it was just the cards that were bloody? Like it could just be that. It could just be
rather
the
than the line
sacrifice.
about the locker.
That whole thing didn't even need to be there.
Right. I agree with that.
Fury is just. He's a big question mark for me in this movie. And the one thing Avengers suffers from is just the later films complicate a lot of these characters. Because I go, yes, Fury believes and the team will take him down, but in the next movie he's going to build helicopters in the sky that shoot people and kill all the bad guys. And I go, Fury is just
you can kind of tell
dude?
That a million people wrote these movies.
Exactly, and so
that's true because he's clearly going. Technology's not going to solve a problem. In the next movie, technology will solve a problem.
Oops.
You know,
that's Winter Soldier or Ultron.
Winter Soldier. Yeah, it's very true. But yeah, the Coulson question is Phil kind of saying, you know, that whole whether Jesus really died or not, the idea of self-sacrifice, if that motivates us, then that should, you know, type of thing. And there might be, again, from a humanistic standpoint, okay, that's true. The idea is powerful. Ideas are powerful. Stories are powerful. But it's not usually powerful enough to transform the way something that's real transforms, you know, type of thing. So the idea of hearing stories about, you know, if you have massive financial debt and you hear other people have gotten a debt, that sounds really cool. Someone comes and pays your $100,000, you know, back tax bill that you have, that transforms your life more than hearing about it. You know, and so really understanding that Jesus really did pay a debt. He really did die. The more you get that, I mean, you know, forgiven much, loves much. So the idea of being forgiven is never going to be as powerful as actually receiving it. And I think we all know, you know, Christians who, you know, and I would definitely say I went through a journey of that, of I had the idea of it, but it moved from idea to reality for me. And for some Christians, you give them the test, they would mark all the right answers, but it hadn't moved from idea to reality. And you know, Tim Keller gives this great illustration of, you know, a big, you know, thing of water, and Jesus is an idea, it's a balloon that sits on the water. And you're like, it's, you know, it's real, it's there, it's, you know, whatever, but it doesn't change the water much. But when it moves from idea to reality, it's like dropping a boulder in the water. The water is
displaced.
Displaced, moves, there's waves. Sometimes it's messy, but reality has come.
Cool.
And so that I definitely think there's something there with Coulson, which again, we shouldn't be surprised. Humanistic, you know, movie. I mean, Joss Whedon's a known atheist. He even mentioned in the comment with Captain America saying there's only one God, ma'am. He said he got some flack for some atheist friends, like that he even put that in the movie.
Why did he put it in?
Because he said that's what Captain America would say. That's what Captain America believes. Which again, you know, something I appreciate about Joss Whedon. He doesn't have, apparently, the level of insecurity to be like, I need to make sure this message gets in 15 different ways. It's like, no, this would be true to this character. And I'm not worried that if I throw this in there, then I'm going to lose a couple people to Christianity, you know, type of thing. And honestly, I wish more Christians had that kind of confidence in their own faith.
It holds back so much Christian art, honestly.
Be subtle. It's okay to be subtle. You can't be so subtle that only the film student gets it, and everybody's like, "What happened? I don't know." And then the few people, "I get it," and that's deep, But you don't want to be so on the nose that you're preachy. You got that middle path is hard to find.
Good. Can we talk a little bit about the meaning of the word avenge? Well, the concept of revenge and vengeance, and
yes.
There's that really weird note where Tony Stark is talking to Loki and he says,
maybe your army comes and maybe it's too much for us, but it's all on you. Because if we can't protect the Earth, you can be damn well sure we'll avenge it.
It's just this weird note where I go, why is he saying this?
How biblical is the concept of vengeance? And
vengeance is mine, says the Lord.
Yeah. The Lord's, right, exactly. Yeah. And I would say that...
I mean, who doesn't want to be Batman? Lord wants to take vengeance. I gladly do that. I'll sign up for that one.
Right.
Why are they even called the Avengers?
I think
is
it's
that a comic thing?
I think it's just a cool name.
Okay.
Yes. And I think Tony Stark's line was like a way to kind of say, this is where it came from. Even though it was clearly called the Avengers Initiative beforehand, but it was like the way to give credence to why they're called that.
Right.
And
so I guess they're avenging Phil's death. Maybe
at that point, or different things for other people. I mean, Hawkeye, he was taken over. He was like, well, putting an arrow through his eye socket would help me sleep better.
That's revenge.
Not very Christian.
That's it's just weird, huh?
No, but again, a pretty natural human thing. And as you go through the Psalms, there's definitely elements of that when you are seeing people wrong. And some of the beauty of the Psalms is, right or wrong, that's people.
True.
And they're like, Lord, take my enemies and
wipe them off the face of the earth.
And you're like, that doesn't seem very, but they're being honest and before the Lord. And there is an element of again freedom and lack of insecurity in that.
So Tony Stark was being honest before the Lord.
I'm not saying that.
But that helps. That helps. That's cool. Huh.
But does he believe it? Yes. And again, from a human level, do you watch that and go, yeah? I mean, anytime the bad guy or the good guy gets the bad guy, there's a part of you that's like, yeah.
If the heroes all sat in a room and just knelt and prayed for Loki to be vanquished, boring movie.
Pretty boring.
Let's just say it.
Yeah. Well, I think we have to also talk about Hulk a little bit.
Dr. Banner, now might be a really good time for you to get angry.
That's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry.
I just think about James where it says something along the lines of anger does not produce the righteousness the Lord requires. And I just go, what does it mean for a hero to go, I am always angry? And I just, what does that even mean?
But in your anger, do not sin.
Do not sin.
So
what if Hulk said, I do not let the sun go down on my anger?
Yeah, what is that? That's Ephesians or something?
My anger is righteous.
Yeah.
I have righteous anger. The number of people are like, you should have a righteous anger.
I don't know. The one thing I like the James thing is it doesn't even bother to answer that question. It just says anger it's not going to produce the righteousness that's required. It's not going to get you where you think it's going to get you. And I just go, here's a superhero now becoming this awesome fighter with anger. I don't know what to make of that. It seems.
But I mean, I would say in some senses the film speaks to that a little bit of that anger was destroying all the people around them.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I don't know if you've heard good preachers who get fired up.
Yeah.
But you kind of wonder what's it like to live in their house. Type of thing. Because usually that's not something you can only, kind of like the Hulk, you can't usually just only turn it off exactly when you want it. A really passionate person, that plays to both your greatest strength and your greatest weakness. And that's Hulk, right? His greatest strength is that anger Hulkness, and his greatest weakness is he destroyed Harlem, type of thing, and a hell carrier.
So what is he angry about?
Yeah, we don't go into that.
No, he doesn't get his arc.
He doesn't get an arc. Yeah, and it's odd because in the scene where they get attacked, I go, he kind of loses control, and he's a scary man. He's fighting everybody.
Yeah,
but
why is
later,
he mad there though?
I don't know. Well, at that point, it's just played as, I guess his heart rate. He's just really stressed out. But then later, it's anger I can control as a weapon against my enemies. I can still be a team with everybody else. So I don't know what to make of him. And obviously, like you said, I don't blame Josh. It seems like there's a lot going on, but I'm just confused by him.
They just said, "Hey, put Hulk in the movie."
Yeah,
there's part of that. I mean, if you want to make the case, I mean, you can. Again, anger for anybody. Like, are there times where any kind of emotion got out of control, but you can use those same emotions? There are times you have it in control. Sure. And in one instance, the emotion was out of control, and another instance, it was in control.
Yeah.
But he was still feeling the emotions. So, I mean, you can make a case. Do I think that's all? Is that what he had in mind? I don't know that there's enough in the film that I say that's for sure what he was doing.
Yeah.
I do think it was Hulk's going to be in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a smudge in the not Bible section.
What's Hulk thing? Oh, he's angry. Okay. I
Cool.
guess I'll
He's
put that in there
angry,
too.
At some point, there was probably another directive was someone has to say Hulk smash.
Yes.
Hulk smash.
Well done, though.
It was
That well done.
really well done.
And Hulk. Smash.
Well, let's wrap up. Let's wrap up with some application.
Yeah.
What can this film? It doesn't necessarily have to be what the film's saying, but just looking at this film, what's some good application, biblical application we can get from it? I have just kind of the idols thing, the sort of the weird pagan symbols I saw in the movie, and I was just thinking the films we like, the entertainment we like, we love superheroes. Why we love superheroes, and that can go downhill real quick if you obsess over Spider-Man and Iron Man and you buy the T-shirts and all that.
There are modern, pagan idols.
In a way, yeah, right. I mean, for some people, not for everybody. For some people, it could be, I love the MCU. I'm going to buy all the MCU stuff. Or for some people, like Weston said, it could be character traits like intelligence, and the film goes into that. But yeah, for me, the movie, it just really the message of idol worship, and in the end, you need to kneel to something real, to Jesus.
Base your life on.
And also something in that is the superheroes that we do like, and the stories that we do love, and the characters we do love, they're all just Jesus stories. Yeah. So with the Avengers is great. Endgame, sticks the landing because it's got this hero's death, the sacrificial thing.
Yeah.
So just we'll probably say some version of this often on this podcast, but be mindful about what you're watching.
What you consume.
It can be idol worship very quickly.
Yeah. Especially these franchises, man.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you've got superpowered godlike beings who are the characters.
Yeah. Literally call themselves gods.
Yeah, right.
One thing that came to mind briefly for application was we've got some friends, and me myself even, who are in positions and jobs maybe they don't like, or in times where they had struggles with authority, and people they kind of thought, why am I serving? Why am I in this position? Why are they above me? Kind of thing. And just it seems like God in many seasons has placed us in positions where we are meant to be under someone else's authority. We're meant to serve, and instead of straining against that, say, what member of the body do I need to be for this person? How can I help them? How can I serve? How can I kneel? And authority for me, a big journey for me was, authority doesn't just mean grudgingly just doing what they say, but it's also getting behind them and supporting them, and not just going, well, I have 15 reservations of what you're doing, but okay, I'll do it. It's like, okay, well, I don't maybe agree with you. I would have done it differently, but now that I give you, that you have authority over my life, okay, I'm gonna get behind that vision. So anyway,
you guys hit good ones, and obviously the idolatry, the
right,
worship, bowing.
All right, Mr. Pastor, what do you got?
And everything. That's the drum I've been beating. So I'll do something a little different. I kind of
took yours. Sorry.
It's totally fine. I have multiple notes here, so you're totally fine. But kind of jumping off we'll say creating art. How many people listen to this podcast have opportunities to create art? I don't know. But when it comes to trying to, not even creating art, just connecting with people and trying to find those things you can connect with that are in agreement. How many things we mentioned in this movie that as a Christian, the world would also be on board for, of humility and self-sacrifice and teamwork and, things like that. Finding those connections and then utilizing those to build connections to the gospel rather than, so much of, and unfortunately in the church world too, we're so highlighting the differences, and this is why we can't connect. This is why these people or this group of people or this party or whatever can't get the gospel, is because they're off in this area or whatever. I'm not saying that's not true, but we have so many things that we do line up, and again, because there's already something in the human heart that wants to go that direction. And in connection to that, when it comes to consuming stories, consuming media, as you kind of mentioned, the idols and heroes we make or whatever. There is, you know, just look at the new Batman, and it seems like, well, what are we going to do? We're just going to go darker. Marvel's done this thing. Apparently, all we know how to do is go darker. And at the end of the day, if it's a good movie, I don't care if it's dark or not. Just make a good movie. But there's something about a story that has, like what you said, Seth, like that has those elements and that has a self-sacrifice that connects with us that we don't even necessarily know why all the time, connects on that spiritual level. And there's a great, it's a little lengthy because it's Tolkien, and I love Tolkien, and it's hard not to bring him up. I'm not technically quoting Lord of the Rings, but he did this essay, I think it's actually from a speech he did at Oxford. It's called On Fairy Story. You can Google it. I think you can find it on PDF or whatever. But he talks about how all the good stories, you know, he says the stories are true. You know, Sleeping Beauty, whatever. It's like, we're Sleeping Beauty, of no effort of our own, the prince comes and rescues us. He gives this great, I mean, it's a phenomenal breakdown of that. And then he talks about, I think he even invented the word eucatastrophe, and he's bringing together Eucharist and catastrophe of like this terrible thing, and yet there should be this turn at the end. In the face of this terrible thing, the story gets turned and something amazing comes out of it. And it seems like so much of the time in the art world and the film world, and I'm afraid in the superhero world and Batman and all that, well, we don't know, so we're just going to go dark because that's more meaningful. Being cynical is more meaningful and more deep and more, you know, whatever. And, you know, the actual eucatastrophe stories that seem like catastrophe and that, you know, there's something amazing and spiritual coming out of it, that there's a good, there's a rescue, there's a, you know, type of thing that does feed our soul. There's a reason that, you know, yes, the other ones might get more critical acclaim because, you know, all critics and snobbery and all that stuff, but the people still go out for the good stories. The people still went out for Avengers. The people still, you know, because it connects with people in a way that those darker ones just don't. And so, you know, if you're listening to a film thing, you're probably a film snob like the rest of us, and there's probably a leaning you have to want to see, you know, some darker stuff because it feels more meaningful, and that's not necessarily all wrong, and because if everything's always candy and rainbows, it feels insincere. But, you know, to find those good stories, you know, Avengers was definitely, I'm so glad I watched it again. It'd been a long time since I watched it. It is so rewatchable, and everything. So that's my kind of last application encouragement.
Is rewatch Avengers.
Rewatch Avengers.
That's application.
There it is. Do that.
Lean into those movies that have those kind of good, I don't want to say just even happy endings, but and read Tolkien's On Fairy Story because it's incredible.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks for joining us, Weston.
Thanks, Weston. That was great.
Glad to be here.
I mean, you suggested the movie, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I did. It was a great movie.
Well, it was drummed into me for my many years under your pastorship.
If I wasn't quoting The Lord of the Rings, I was quoting Avengers.
It was always Avengers.
Cool.
It was great.
Well, we should have you back for Lord of the Rings then.
That would be
we'll
awesome.
Cover some. We're trying to kind of time these out with relevant things, and you know, the Amazon Prime show will come out at some point. So maybe we can cover Lord of the Rings. Okay, sweet. So maybe we can cover Lord of the Rings then.
That would be so cool.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool.
All right, guys. It was fun.
Yeah, it was great.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening. Don't avenge, just rewatch.
Just rewatch.